Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise, playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, thinking you're trying to...
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
A geek for fun.
Really? Are you sure? Are you sure?
I'm not positive.
Okay.
But I'll have a.
Okay, that's good to hear. Alright. Sorry. Have to throw shade. So, yeah, we're here today to do just kind of a random, whim of an episode for me. I've been getting kind of back into medieval and, sword and shield and sorcery stuff lately, which I was into when I was younger, around, late elementary through middle school, maybe. And just kind of randomly, I noticed that I had A Knight's Tale on DVD in my collection. I was like, I fucking like that movie. I remember loving that movie when I was younger. Let's watch it again. Let's do a review. And I gotta say, this movie fucking holds up, and I love it. And I don't know how Alfie feels. And if he hates it, then this might be the last episode Alfie's ever gonna be on.
I despised it. No, this was something I hadn't. I think I'd seen the poster of it before as just one of those things that's seared into my memory of every blockbuster. I think had this poster because Heath Ledger was a very attractive man, and it's a cool thing. So that's how we get the mum audience. But I never watched the movie. I had no idea what it was about or anything like that until you brought it up. So, I always think Heath Ledger, obviously the big tragedy involved is he just taken far too soon before his time. But his biography of work that does exist, I always think is interesting to get around to, because it was definitely a really, really layered talent and someone who could do a lot of things you didn't expect if you're only familiar with the Joker role and stuff. So I was definitely interested to get into this, and I enjoyed it. I thought this was cute. I thought this was a fun. It reminded me very clearly of the era it is set in, from the song choices and the kind of humor they used, and even how it's shot. It feels very kind of 2000s incarnate, and how we used to treat sword and sorcery in a pre-Game of Thrones world. Even when we're doing a parody, it's honest still. This isn't taking the piss out of anything. This is still very much trying to be. It's got a heart to it. It's got a very kind of there are a lot of really powerful scenes, even despite it's still meant to be kind of tongue-in-cheek and going through those kind of vibes. That it reminded me a lot of in England, a little less a more subdued version of a Monty Python type vibe, especially with the costuming and how we did the jousting and that type of medieval knights and honor and all that kind of stuff. So no, I enjoyed this. I wasn't blown away, but I didn't change my everything like that. But I thought this was just a solid, really fun time. With a lot of good jokes and some cute scenes here and there.
Yeah. The thing that I just find really impressive about this movie is, and I got to describe it to someone today, because I mentioned it at work. I mentioned it to someone at work today, and they're like, "I've never seen A Knight's Tale. What's it about?" And I'm like, "So it's a period piece that uses rock music and stuff, but more than anything, it's a sports movie." And that's just the thing that the core concept of this, you strip away all the period stuff, all the drama, and it really is just the fucking underdog sports movie in just a completely unique setting to what we always do with it, you know? And I think it gains a lot from that. It gains a lot of freedom because it doesn't have to follow reality in any way. It kind of just gets to do whatever it wants. It gets to, like, make up its own rules for jousting. It imagines that there's, like, a world championship for jousting, which is just really funny. And overall, I just find it to be a really charming movie when you just, like, kind of strip it down and view it on that level of, you know, it just is a sports movie, and that's kind of brilliant that they're able to pull it off the way they are.
No, I think that definitely is the vibe of I saw one of the reviews. It was like Rocky on horseback.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't quite go that far, but there's definitely that's definitely the vibe of it. And I do think that's an interesting idea to take those tropes and to take those kind of movies that we throw back and forth and put it in a different time period that you wouldn't expect. I think there's got a lot of legs to that, and it's something that even now you don't see that as much as you should. Like, I feel like we're always arguing for period pieces in different types of media and stuff, where it would just, you don't have to change the formula quite drastically, but just by putting it in this different scenario, it's suddenly fresher. It's suddenly got like a new coat of paint.
Yeah, it just helps. It's fun to do stuff like that. I got really into watching this one again, so I even went through and like watched the extras, the special features on the DVD, because this is a DVD and it came from an era when we had those. And it was funny, like, listening to the writer talk about where he kind of just wrote the script in a couple of days and it had no changes, no, like, drastic changes throughout shooting. It was basically they just filmed the script that he had, like, this concept in his head for, and he just kind of put it all on paper, and then they filmed almost basically that, which is really cool. So you kind of get the sense of how good, just as a core story and a core concept, this is, and just how kind of, like, perfectly it works. I think the use of rock music for the soundtrack is just a really funny idea, but it's interesting because it kind of it grounds the story in a way that, like, kind of keeps things more more contemporary, but, like, just gives it a different vibe that's not really what you're expecting when you think of a movie about, you know, knights on horseback and whatnot, and then you just get that, like, opening title sequence with "We Will Rock You" and, like, people dancing in the stands, and you kind of think, okay, but it's just the music is changed, but clearly they're not singing it. And then you got, like, the fucking Lord at the tourney, and he's like, we will rock you. It's
Yeah,
so cool. And then, like, you get the peasants doing the wave and stuff, and it's just so fucking dope to just contextualize it that way. I thought was super fun, because I like anachronisms in movies. I think that's pretty, like, just harmless, fun thing to do, and so I got quite a kick out of seeing what they got away with here. It was very fun to me.
Yeah, I think as well it would be interesting to see what the vibe of this movie would look like if you did, like, if someone made a cut that replaced all of that with a more, I guess, traditional soundtrack for this type of thing, or what would that feel like. I feel like you'd lose a lot. I feel like you'd lose a lot of, like, the performances and, like, how everything kind of comes together with, like, how it's edited and how it's shot. Seems to be, like, very aware of, we're not trying to make this, I guess, like, and this is maybe something we can talk about because you mentioned, like, the sword and sorcery thing at the top of this, but, like, the idea of, like, oh, if it's set in the past, it's almost, like, inherently a little nerdier.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's very specifically trying to appeal to a general audience and be like, no, this can be fun for you guys too, like, don't worry about this. This is very much kind of like that appeal of, like, the Peter Pan or the Zorro, or just kind of like yes, sorry, not Peter Pan. Peter Pan, I guess, fits, but, like, Robin Hood and the Zorro, and, like, this idea of oh no, this is set in an earlier time period, but all the jokes are modern, and all the music we use is modern, and all the actors we use are specifically like the hot actors of this current generation, and we're not trying to appeal to historical accuracy too hard or anything. We'll have historical figures show up, but we'll just get an actor that we like to riff and go with that. It feels very kind of akin with like when RTD cast Shakespeare in that Doctor Who episode, and he comes on and he's like, Shakespeare's a rock star basically, and he's kicking, like, that gives me that vibe of like, we're not trying to make this feel stuffy, we're trying to make this feel entertaining.
Yeah, I think that's all very intentional, and it has a really good effect, and kind of making this movie just stand out from kind of the crowd, because we do period pieces a lot, and they do kind of have, especially when we talk about like film, a period piece almost always has this like Oscar bait hoity-toityness attached to it. Not every time, but like often it feels like if you're doing a period piece, you're trying to go for more of a Oscar bait kind of film. And this one just doesn't. This is just it's a sports movie, it's a romantic comedy, it's a very like basic package of a film that just happens to be set around fucking jousting of all things, which is another thing I want to talk about, because all of the jousting that they do, they just actually filmed people riding on horses and hitting each other with sticks. The lances are all made out of hollowed out balsa wood, so they crack real easy. And funny enough, they've got they're filled with like a bunch of things, including like spaghetti pasta that's not been boiled or cooked. And that's like very amusing, but it looks really good, and you get some just absolutely fucking top-notch stunt work out of it, because that dude's actually being dragged across the mud in the stirrup by that horse. That guy is actually falling off the horse and going over the rail and coming down with it and shit. All that's just like really impressive, really great filmmaking that nowadays would probably try to do more CG with it or something. It's kind of hard to say. I guess it depends on the director, but still.
There'd be more pressure to make it CGI. Yeah, the matter it'd be more of a. It wouldn't be as much of a given.
Yeah, probably. It's funny because just watching it and they're talking about it, and like, yeah, we were having all kinds of conversations about how we could do this safely, and then we ended up just the easiest way to do it is just actually put guys on horses and have them hit each other with sticks. And it's kind of cool because you just look at it and you do get the sense of why this was so entertaining, and like the argument that the characters make or the world makes of, this is the biggest sport, this is the tournament champion gets to be whoever's the best at jousting, because just like, holy shit, the way that they film this and like the stakes that they kind of put behind it, you do get the sense of like, this would be the fucking sport. It's crazy. I remember a number of years ago, History Channel, back before they went full crazy, and we're just kind of trying anything to get people's attention and get popular. They did a short-lived reality game show kind of thing where they were trying to bring jousting back as like a full contact sport, because there's still jousting today, but it's like theatrical. It's part of like just Ren fairs, and you got like restaurants and theme parks like medieval times that'll have jousts, but it's all like very pre-planned of who's going to go down when and where they're going to strike and yada yada. But they're doing jousting as like treating it again as a full contact sport, and it was just a fucking cool concept, and like, yeah, I don't know. Am I weird if I say my favorite sport's jousting because just holy shit?
It's an interesting one. It's one I've never. It's a little too. I tend to resist anything that doesn't have like more of like a clean one. The element of the horse being there is a little. It just undoes it a little bit for me, but I definitely do see the appeal. There's definitely that like that risk and reward danger to it there for sure to make it interesting to watch.
Yeah, I guess I kind of see what you're coming from of the like the horse being there kind of adds an X factor, but being a good writer is just as important to it as being able to, you know, contend with the lance and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's like not a detriment to it. I think that is part of the appeal of like trying to manage so many things at one time and just keep it all together. Is kind of the point of the sport. It's, you know, we have racing, we have like jockeys and stuff still. So it's just kind of not quite the same because it's not as long a stretch, but you still get the same idea there of trying to manage a lot of things at once. So just, I don't know. It made me want to go watch a joust. Because Haley and I yeah, Haley and I were watching it, and we're like, and she just goes, "Next time we go to the Ren Fair next year, I want to make sure we see the jousting." Now I'm like, "Yeah, me too. It's fucking cool, man. Why did we stop?"
I think it's because it's like horribly dangerous.
So,
I do wonder where that would. Like, I wonder because we've got statistics and shit for this now. I do actually wonder if that would over under be less or more dangerous than like football or boxing with the amount of head injuries like athletes suffer from that. I wonder if actually jousting would be comparably pretty tame. So we'll see.
yeah, I don't know, because it's kind of like more rare to, like they talk about it in the movie where, you know, hitting someone in the head's a lot harder to do. You know, obviously you've still got the potential of falling off a horse. You've got the massive impact your body's taking, but I don't know. It's definitely an interesting idea. But anyway, to get back to the movie itself, I just am so impressed by the number of things this movie does. What did you think of old Geoffrey Chaucer showing up in this?
I thought that was really cute. I think the title should have given that away. But I think Paul Bettany did a really, really good job. Again, it gives me the vibe of those Doctor Who celebrity cameo things, and obviously Paul Bettany wasn't exactly a big name or anything, but just that kind of like we're going to completely portray them as like a regular modern, like when we say he's a writer, we don't try and go with the hoity-toity, like we say, oh no, he's just a modern day writer for the 2000s. And he talks like that, and then he interprets it like that, and there's a lot of really fun moments of that. His introduction of just how naked he is in this movie for how long and how many ass shots of Paul Bettany is something truly prepared him for vision, I guess. He was like, "Oh, you're gonna give me a cape to cover my ass this time? That's fantastic." So,
Yeah.
no, he was great. I thought he was definitely a standout.
Well, it was interesting because like the comparison between like him and like Don King, the boxing promoter, is just so like evident in the way that they decided to write him for this. And so that was like really just such a fun and bizarre take. Again, watching some of the behind the scenes stuff, apparently there's like a 6-month period in which history just kind of like loses track of what Chaucer was doing. And so they're like, and that's where this movie takes place.
Really funny.
I know, right? So it's just such a cool concept, and you just get so many like fun moments with him. I think the way that that he and like the rest of the gang interact, the dynamic that they all have together is just super fucking cool. It works so well. It's just so like instant chemistry between a lot of them, and like not just like a they gel well together way, but like in the way that they kind of fight each other too. The way that you've got Paul Bettany and Alan Tudyk, Alec Tudyk or Alan Tudyk. I can't remember.
I think you're the first one, right?
Yeah.
Tudyk.
Yeah. The way that they like got this semi rivalry within the group, and you've got like the guy who's this insanely eloquent writer who's kind of goes above a lot of people's heads, and then you've got this dude who can't even express a thought besides just pain. So much pain.
So much pain.
It's like really good. I love the scene with Chaucer where he's trying to like hype up the crowd after William's victory with the sword, because he's, the guy just fucking saved his ass. And like no one in the fucking crowd gets it.
No one understands what he's saying. Yeah. And it's like,
which is really funny because that was exactly what just happened on set. The extras didn't know when they were supposed to cheer or that they were supposed to cheer, so the guy just fucking did it, and it naturally happened. I fucking love the movie for just like a lot of little stuff like that. It's so impressive because it feels 100% as if, of course, it was written that way. But then just to find out that was like kind of just what naturally happened on set is just so great, because it kind of just speaks to what I think is really enjoyable about this movie, of just how natural and perfect it feels in a lot of ways. Character dynamics, character interactions just kind of roll and fit perfectly, and you just get a lot of like really great just great action, great beats out of people in this. I don't know. I've been kind of directing the conversation a lot. What's something about it you want to talk about? You take us somewhere.
The main thing I quite liked about it was I think just William, Heath Ledger's character. I think he was consistently a very pure and very kind of simple protagonist, but the type of hero you rarely kind of. It was refreshing to go back to this type of period, where that kind of seemed like just like a good dude. And yes, he's got his ambition and he's got his pride, but it's never in that kind of like, oh, he needs to have his comeuppance sense. It's just like, no, like, he's just seeing like, hey man, the system's pretty fucked. Maybe we could try and make a better lives for ourselves if we just did this insy bitty lie, and then just kind of by his own charisma, attracts people who can help that dream happen. It was very kind of Goku-esque in a way, if you think about it, where he's just constantly befriending people who are like, oh, I'm the exact person you need for this moment in time. I always find that very very charming and enduring. It's again, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's not giving anything that we haven't seen before, but it's just done to a very competent, very good level. And Heath Ledger is just naturally charming, just naturally someone you want to. And I always forget how like deep his normal voice was, because it goes so different for Joker. But like, it really struck me of just like, damn, he's like sounds exactly like Chris Hemsworth. Like, it's almost a 1-to-1. And that was really interesting to go back and hear that. So I liked his stuff. The probably the best scene in the movie for me is when he reunites with his father.
That is a very heartwarming scene.
I thought that was fantastically done. I think everything to do with the way his father portrayed that performance as well, and how long they hold off on the "I'm your son" like bit, and they just let that keep building and building. Just like first, he's just like, "Oh, I'm a nice. Oh, I've heard your name. Yes, come in." And then it's just like, "Oh, your son, have word." And he's just like immediately they simper on the father's reaction, because you don't know if he's dead. He's just happy to hear about him. And he's like, "Is he well?" He's like, "Yes, he's well. He's alive." And he starts crying and fumbling and everything like that. And even to the lead up before it, when he's talking to the kid, and the kid's just like, "Oh, he's blind, sir." Just that moment there, I was like, "Oh, that's just like a really, really, really good scene." That was definitely the highlight of the film for me. is that interaction, and then the dinner where they're hanging out. It's like, oh, how's your women? It's like, many years that one, and he talks over that. It felt very genuine, and I really like that moment beneath the rock songs and the jokes and the naked Paul Bettany. Like, I like that really core of humanity of like, this is the environment he grew up in. This is what he wants to try and do for his dad. Like, this is why this means so much for him, and it's again why when you go to when he doesn't want to run away, it makes that scene where it seems like, oh, he's just being ridiculous, like there's no way he can get out of this with knowing what he knows. It makes it completely understandable because you have that emotional connection, you have that like scene. It's like, no, you understand, like he cannot run from this. This is everything to him to try and make a better life. So I really enjoyed all of that stuff. That was really fantastic.
No, I agree. The stuff with his dad is just really emotionally impactful. My favorite scene with William is it's really quick, it's really subtle acting from Heath Ledger's part for the totality of all the crazy things he does in this movie. But the scene for me that's like just sticks out is not too much earlier before yours is when they're riding through London, London town, in like the parade before the tournament, and you just see that William looks over at the it's not called a gallows, stockade. He looks over at the stockade that like it's the same one that he stood on when he was a boy, and he sees a boy standing on it to look at the knights go by. And then he just like passes through someone, and then you just see the child actor for William back on that same stockade, and it just cuts to this like really, it's such a profound look on Ledger's face for what he pulls off in that moment. And that's like my absolute favorite thing about it is he's not like fooled himself into thinking that he's actually noble. He's not gotten too prideful or anything. He still just fundamentally remembers who he is and where he's from. And it's just such a great little moment in that for me. I really like that. The child actor for William in this does a really good job in the few scenes he gets. I really liked him in this too. That's a fully grown adult now. I wonder what he's up to. I wonder what he's done.
I maybe you don't want to look up that for like child actors in the 2000s. It never normally ends up well, but he did a really good job. I was also very impressed with that.
So I don't know. I just thought that like that one stood out really well to me. Yeah, all the stuff that takes place in London is really good. Like I really like the scene where he gets knighted in London. I love the final joust with the villain, who again is just like, that's another character I just absolutely adore in this one. But we're talking about William now, so we'll get back to him. But it just, yeah, everything Ledger does in the performance just throughout the course of the movie, and this is like his first big commercial success movie too. Like he'd go on and he'd do other things that were like obviously of major note, like Brokeback Mountain and of course Dark Knight, but like this was his first major commercial success as a leading man. I think the next one would be 10 Things I Hate About You, or maybe this was the first one filmed, but that one came out first. Let me look that up because now I'm curious. 10 Things I Hate About You. Okay, that's 99 and this is 2001. So
Okay.
this must have just been for like his rom-com kind of stuff. And then this was like his first like major like blockbuster kind of movie. So this is like really early on in his career. And it's interesting to see like who went on and continued to get a lot of work after this and who didn't.
Yeah.
So you got like obviously Paul Bettany and Alan Tudyk kind of went on and did a lot more, but most of these other guys just did not really stick around or anything. especially the main female lead, Jocelyn Shania Sosman. I've never seen her in anything else. Watching the movie, I went through and looked at her filmography because I was trying to think if like I'd ever seen her anywhere before or since, and just she's still working, but goddamn, I've not seen a single one of those movies. So it's interesting how this it's kind of encapsulated a very specific moment in time for a lot of these people's careers, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm just looking at that as well. It's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang's not bad. That's good. She got in that is a pretty big one.
She was in that, but what did she do? I love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but I do not remember her or recognize her.
I don't know what she is in that. I'm just seeing it on her wiki page. Pink hair girl. Okay, so clearly not.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I think I actually remember the character now. Just like one of the ones that comes up randomly in the party. It's funny because that movie's all about like just the struggles of fame and shit. I don't know. It's interesting.
But no, it is, like you said, very much like a moment in time watching this film, which is funny because, again, it's set far, far back, but it feels fundamentally 2000s, and that was the vibe I got while I was watching it, is it was just that kind of, like, 65 million back then wasn't nothing to sneeze at, but it also, like, it wasn't anything ridiculous. You could kind of pump these out, and this would be a movie that they would have expected, oh, this is like a DVD movie, like, this is a movie that you expect will just kind of be perpetually through that, as just like, oh, we need something funny to watch for a Friday night, let's get this out. And that just market just doesn't exist in the same way anymore. You would hope like, oh, they could make something like this on streaming, and they don't. Like this, if you want to make a Knight's Tale right now, you'd have to be like, okay, this is like a Game of Thrones prequel, and it is a miniseries, and like, they would have to add like so many extra caveats just to get to the very simple premise.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's amazing how like just perfectly simplistic this movie is. You know, it's got a lot of like great human drama in it and everything, but like he doesn't fucking overthrow the monarchy or change society by the end of this fucking movie. He's just like a peasant that gets knighted, and that's because he's like a good dude and also really good at jousting and sword fighting, you know? It's really impressive. I like that his sigil is the phoenix. I think that's a really cool little
Yeah, it was a nice one.
Yeah, nice visual kind of moment, because it does he calls it does speak to his story, his yeah, just his tale, I guess. So what'd you think of the villain in this? How'd you like the villain?
He's okay. It's very much every single fucking night film or show or cartoon episode either has the sheriff, the king, or this guy. Like that's the rogues gallery for a knight figure. Like this, you always gotta have basically. I guess this category would be the
Black Knight.
Reverse. Yeah, right, the reverse knight.
Yeah.
It's just like he's everything you aren't, but everything that is the stereotypical description of how you can use that. I thought he was alright. I wasn't particularly impressed by anything in terms of screen presence or charisma, because again, when you're given a generic role like that, normally what you have to do as an actor is you have to kind of play it up and really kind of let your own line readings, your own deliveries, and your own improvisation like kind of carry that, and that's how you get those screen present roles where you can transform something that's been seen before in generic into something bad. I think he definitely did an attempt at that. I don't think he's bad or anything, but for me particularly, he was one of the ones that just kind of like, all right, so this is this part of the movie where the knight figures out he's of lower bluff and uses that, and he makes misogynistic comments and stuff like that. It's like we've moving on kind of thing, but I didn't have any issue with it. I thought he did a completely fine job.
I like him a lot. He is, you know, more so than just the the Black Knight, the dark, antagonist. He is just like the sports bully movie character.
Uh-huh.
You always have this trope in sports movies that is really funny, where you've got the villain characters who are like really really good, but then they kind of like undermine themselves by cheating, and not even like their cheating leads to them losing, but just they cheat when they didn't actually need to, and if they just didn't cheat, they probably would have done a better, like they would have won easier. And so he even has that, right, where he like starts using a like a gimmicked lance so he can actually fucking stab the dude, and all that. And I don't know, it's kind of impressive how well that archetype just fits in the situation here, with knights and stuff. I like the idea that William couldn't be happy with any of the tournaments he was winning because he didn't get to beat his rival in any of them. So you got a bit of that shonen stuff. There you go, Alfie. Fucking shonen jousting series.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would fit. I mean, they say very often that sports movies are the closest you ever get to like shonen in Western media, so it's very close to this already.
Yeah, but like it's interesting because like William never gets to defeat his rival, like the one man who was able to beat him. And it helps that that he kind of symbolizes all of the restrictive elements of the society that William is not allowed to be a part of. So like, yes, he's got the lordliness. He's got the like moment where he kind of plays the mental warfare with William. He's like, yes, I've entered marriage negotiations with her father. And it's like, oh, because you don't know to do that. You can't even do that because you don't have anything to offer since you aren't actually, a lord or whatever. It's just interesting how he like continually undermines him and kind of represents this old world. And you get one of my other favorite scenes in the movie with him too, where he does fall off his horse in the final bout with William. And just before he hits the ground, you get this like, dreamscape moment of him sitting there. And I'm not sure how they shot it. And you tell me how you feel about the way this looked visually. Because it always looked to me like he's not actually in contact with the ground yet. Like they've tried to capture the idea that he is having this thought the moment before he impacts the dirt, and you get all the characters looking over him, repeating "You have been weighed, you've been measured, and you have been found wanting. Welcome to the new world." I just thought that was like such an interesting moment in the way that's shot and the way that it looks like he's not quite on the ground yet.
Yeah, they definitely were going to go for that, like, obviously the symbolism and touching the ground fully. It feels very much similar to how in, like, a Rocky movie, the final punch knockout is always in slow motion. It's always the Apollo Creed falling to the ground. There's, like, this giant tree falling, and we spend a lot of time shooting to other characters, and they'll be in motion.
Mm-hmm.
But then once we go to the main character who's falling, they'll be in like dead slow, and like time is seemingly stopped as we're getting all these different figures. So that's how it felt to me. Is I also got that kind of vibe of like it was a very intentionally just like that inch or centimeter off the ground.
Yeah, and I just like the way that looks, where just like looking up at the sky, you just see all the clouds up above him as the different characters enter into his view, and that's just such a cool moment that I think gets to the core of what they were wanting to do with the movie, and on like a societal commentary level. Because yeah, as much as like jousting was pretty fucking cool, this movie does make a really good point of just like how shit medieval social structures and class systems were. So I do appreciate that they go the extra mile for some of that and just kind of really try to round out the criticism, because it does that really good thing of like, here's the elements that we like look back on and we like about this world, and then here's the elements that are a bit more reality and what it actually would have been like, and to have those two kind of go up against each other and have the elements that we enjoy be the things that that come through and get to exist into today versus what is left behind, what is thrown aside as time marches on. I thought that was a really interesting way to parallel it, like kind of a generational struggle. More subtle.
Oh, I thought that was good.
Yeah, more subtle in the movie. Definitely not the major focus, but it's there and it's pretty cool. Talked about Jocelyn a little bit. Her dynamic in the film is interesting. It's probably what I think is one of the weaker parts of the movie. Not like on the whole, and I certainly do like a lot of their more romantic scenes and some of the courtship and stuff. But then there's like some scenes where I'm like, this just feels like, kind of needless conflict that's padding out the movie a little bit. Like, I'm not. I get why William's upset at one point when he talks to her, but at the same time, it feels like he needlessly kind of drives a wedge between them. That first time that that the villain isn't at the tournament, and he kind of like takes it out on her, and it just kind of feels like it needlessly pads out the movie with a little bit of like side conflict. So I don't love that aspect of it. But at the same time, some of the more like, what is the role of women in this time period within this context, and the way that she doesn't like the empty gestures that a lot of people throw her way just because she's pretty. So she doesn't respond to it well, but then when William is more genuine with her at times, she responds to it very well. I think it gets a little muddied in the fact that like he keeps having the crew help him like get in her pants, basically. Not saying that's not okay to do. Sure, run your pickup lines through your boys, it's fine. But at the same time, it is kind of funny that like the stuff he's saying to her is the reason that she falls in love with him, and only about like a third of that stuff is actually him.
It's all part of the joy, Ian, of like letting your friends and allies you pick up consequently along the journey give you the tools you need to win. Like, truly, nothing he did is built on his own back. It's entirely from other people.
It's true. It's true. Works out pretty well. So I don't know. I do have like a side thing about Jocelyn though.
Okay.
So I work at Chessex. I work in packing. You buy something from Chessex.com. I am the one that will be putting it in a box and sending it to you. And I always talk about how we got to put like paper and bubble wrap in the boxes to keep stuff from moving around, to keep it from our mortal enemy, Jocelyn. So when you get the name reveal in this movie, which I'd completely forgotten that was her name, I was like, ha, 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 fuck that bitch.
God damn.
I know. It's stupid. I'm aware it's stupid, but it entertains me. So I'm legitimately thinking of like getting a printout of her when she's got like the weird fringe of hair spiked off to one side, which I have no idea how you do without hair gel in the Middle Ages, but we're not talking about that. I want to get like a printout of her and like pin it to a dartboard or something and put it in.
Jesus Christ.
I know. It's stupid. It doesn't mean anything, but it entertains me, and that's the important part. trying to think of other stuff about this movie that I enjoyed that's worth talking about. On this watch through, I finally understood something that I guess just like I interpreted one way when I was really young and never like thought to question any deeper. The scene where William's in the stockade and the prince comes and releases him and knights him and stuff. And he's like, my historians have found that he descends from an ancient line. I was like, I always, as a kid, interpreted that as like, oh, that feels a little weak. It's, it just kind of undercuts the narrative here a little bit, doesn't it? That he's actually just royalty. And this time I got, oh no, the prince is just saying that because no one can fuck with his authority on this. God.
You can just say whatever,
Yeah.
and you can't. That's what I got. Is I really like the line, or I forget what it is verbatim, but just the and as prince, that word can be uncontested, like unquestioned. Like I think that's very good to have that just like immediate. Yes, it's a forgery, but it's a forgery you can get your head chopped off for even attempting to disprove.
Yeah,
I think that's really pretty good.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I thought that was a really good just little moment there. And it's just funny because as he said it, I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Fucking like seen this movie since, basically it came out. I remember catching it on cable a number of times throughout the years. So to just have never picked up on that before now is just really funny to me. So on this watch through, that was just, mark of a good movie. You always notice something new every time you watch it, and sometimes that might be shit that was entirely obvious to everyone else, but here we are. Yeah. I think that's all I had on this movie. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to bring up or talk about, but I really fucking like this movie.
Yeah, I like it too. I think the issue with just talking about is it does what it does very competently and very simply, and the best way to experience that is just to watch it for yourself, because there's not something you can really. It's all not a faultless movie like what we've talked about. You've brought up like there are thematic ideas at play here. There are like deeper narratives and stuff that go back, and there is research. They did put a lot of effort into this movie, but it's done in a way where it's almost beside the point of just the experience of just like sitting down and having a good time, and then putting it away. And then it's one of those movies that I imagine is also very rewatchable as a result of it, because it's something that you can go back to in like a month or 2 months time and another year time, and every time you go back to it you might find something different, or a joke might tickle you something funnier, or again like it's something that doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't try to be something it's not. It doesn't try too hard. It's just very honest, very clear direction. And obviously that comes from the director being this person who wrote the movie as well, having a very clear vision and getting a cast that even if they didn't do things after this, they came on board to do this and did it to a very high level, and it just had a good time.
Yeah, I agree. I really just enjoy this movie for that reason. It is a really solid, just straight up movie. It's not trying to be snooty, it's not trying to be hoity-toity. It is just being a really direct, simple, bare bones film that just does what it does really, really well, and I appreciate the hell out of it for doing that. All right, well, I think that about wraps it up for this one. Let's go ahead and go on to ratings. I'll give this movie a straight out 5 out of 5 spaghetti-filled lances.
That's a good one. For me, I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 Paul Bettany asses.
Paul Bettany asses. Like, are we talking individual cheeks or like both cheeks?
Both cheeks, or it's a pair of cheeks for every number. So that's a whole lot of ass.
That's a lot of ass.
That's a lot of ass.
Alrighty, Alfie. It's been a number of weeks, so why don't you go ahead and pick what we're going to talk about next time?
Okay. For next week's topic, because we're talking about specifically with like the wrench and jousting and stuff like that. Maybe the idea of I don't know how to phrase it because it's a pretty broad topic, because I think that's what will get more interesting conversations out of it. But I want to talk about that kind of like either sports with animals, or specifically the idea of like symbiotics with animals, like the idea of like either with like lion tamers or jousting, or even people who the world knows, like that idea of that we've created these fields in our world, and as we've grown up, that over time humans have naturally evolved with animals. And do we have any stories about that for ourselves? Do we have any things with our own pets or animals that aren't specifically pets? I would try and lean more towards so that kind of thing, and if there's any meat on the bones of that topic.
Okay, it's an interesting one. We'll see how we do on that. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I am the champion of the oppressed.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things while riding on horseback and trying to hit each other.